0, thank you. I do not believe we have got any public comment, so we will go to presentation recognitions. We will do that next time?
We'll do that.
Okay. I believe we had United Way.
Right?
Yeah. Fantastic. Board minutes. Before you is the February 18th minutes. Chair, I entertain a motion in regards to those minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion we approve the minutes from the February 18th regular call board meeting.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. It's been motioned by Ms. Harrison. It's been seconded by Mr. Davis to approve the February 18th board minutes. Any additions, subtractions, anything on the board minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving indicate by raising your right hand. That's 5 in favor. Abstention? Thank you. 1 abstention. All right. Superintendent's report.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I tell you, it has been a whirlwind 48 hours, to say the least. We initially had a conference call with the state superintendent on Friday to really talk about the whole coronavirus situation at that time. And this is with superintendents across the state and State Superintendent Molly Spearman. Shortly after that call is when the decision was made by her or the governor to declare the state of emergency and close schools down in Lancaster and Kershaw counties. But we had another conference call scheduled for Monday. Well, before Monday, they called a conference call for Sunday at 3:30. They moved it up from 3:30 to 2 o'clock, and by the time we got to 2 o'clock, I knew there was some big news coming. By the time we got called at 2 o'clock, she indicated that an impending decision was going to be announced that would close schools across the state of South Carolina. And as you can imagine, getting that information at that point in time really put us in a very precarious spot to be able to prepare to provide instruction for young people, think about how you serve food for young people. So we had to really hit the ground running. With that said, let me give the faculty and staff throughout this entire district a tremendous round of applause for doing a wonderful job. I'll tell you, even though we had started the process of beginning to put these learning modules together, they completed all the learning package by the end of the day on Monday. And that took a tremendous amount of work and energy and getting them copied and getting them organized. And in every school I went to, it was just all hands on deck. And so the faculty and the staff here really illustrated what this whole concept of excellence through teamwork means. Because they really pulled together, and I am so thankful that we have such a caring and competent staff as we do. The next group of people that I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge are the parents of Fairfield County. Because our plan was, once the packets were developed on Monday, we communicated to parents that they could pick them up on Tuesday. If they didn't pick them up on Tuesday, we were going to have the buses run routes on Wednesday to deliver those packets. I'll tell you, by the end of today, probably 75% of the packets were picked up, which quite honestly exceeded my expectations. I said, well, this short notice, parents are working, lots is going on. Maybe a lot of parents won't have an opportunity to come, but I'm telling you, the overwhelming majority of parents were able to come up and get the packets. And so I've not seen the final numbers, but just in terms of surveying principals and staff, we are probably somewhere around 75, maybe 80% of parents were able to come and pick packets up, and that is a tremendous job. So join me in giving the parents a round of applause as well. And so now packets are out. So let's talk about what the instructional program looks like. Obviously, students in grades 7 through 12 have Chromebooks that they have been keeping all year long. So they're very accustomed to having that kind of device. We also made it available to students in grades 2 through 6 as well, that they could check out a Chromebook if they so desired. Understanding that there is a challenge throughout this county with internet access. And while we have some people who have great internet access, depending on where you live, no service is available. We do have some families who are able to use their cell phones as hotspots, but guess what? There are some areas of this county where your cell phone won't even work. And so that's not an option either. And so we basically have three modes to support students. The first is obviously the package that we've already provided. The other is a whole e-learning model where we can use our Google platform to really support instruction throughout the county. And for those students who do not have internet access, we have also made it available where they may call in and communicate with their respective teachers to provide support, to receive support, excuse me. And so we are hoping through all of these methods that we have laid out that we'll be able to never accommodate them to the extent that we do on face-to-face instruction, but we can try and make the best out of a bad situation, if you will. With that said, after my meeting with the administrative and leadership team today, we're going to revisit this whole plan in about 5 to 7 days to talk about really how it is going, where we see the gaps, what's being successful and what's not being successful, and talk about what kind of adjustments we may need to make. All right, and so we got to build the plane as we fly, and so there are some unknowns there, but we are so pleased with the job that the faculty and staff have done to really put together a very, very sound plan. And so, but before I move on to the next thing, are there any questions about how we'll be delivering instruction over the next multiple days? Yes.
On the packets you said that was put out, are some of those packets, I'm assuming you're saying, is when you can't get internet for sure, is something that they can physically have paperwork that they can answer and do the work on paper?
Yes, and so all students have a physical hard copy packet, all right? What I'm talking about, Ms. Hartman, is even if you have a hard copy packet, we still need to have a mechanism to provide you instructional support. So if I give you a packet and it asks you to multiply 3-digit numbers and you struggle multiplying 3-digit numbers, how do we find a way to provide you support there? Now, ideally, if parents were there, maybe they can provide some support, but if parents are not able to provide some of that support, like if it were my daughter who was taking trigonometry, which is over my head, I need somebody else, I need some help, okay? Yeah, and so that's what I'm talking about. How do we provide support? But all of the young people of our district have those physical packets as well.
Okay, and another thing that's across my mind, and I don't know whether anybody else thought about it, but possibly the ones, especially the ones again that doesn't have the internet. I guess the libraries are still open, are they?
They're not open.
They're not open.
No.
Okay, that was a question. And then also the things that the parents, if they're home, that can teach them at home. Like balance a checkbook. Just cooking. Doing different things around the house. That maybe they don't normally do. But anyway, that's a thought of a suggestion to parents. So anyway, if we can put that out, I don't know, but that's a thought.
Well, I'm sure parents will have a whole list of things for them to do. I can assure you that. They're gonna be home all day. They're gonna find some things for them to do. Ms. Hawkins. Mr. Seaver.
Yes, Dr. Green, if the state decides to extend this for a longer period of time, do we have some plans in place for student instruction if it goes on to the end of the year?
A very good question, Mr. Seavers, and so that's why we plan to revisit this in 5 to 7 days, because we know we'll be making some adjustments. Primarily, they have put together about 10 to 15 days of instruction. We know if it goes past that, we'll need to come back and really talk about how we extend the learning past that 10 to 15 days. If it ends up going, as you said, for the remainder of the year, then obviously we'll need a much more robust plan, okay? And so this is a very fluid situation, Mr. Seables. This gets us through a few weeks, ideally, but we understand if this is extended much longer, we're going to have to expand upon that plan.
Second question. If it's extended a little longer, how would that affect the employees?
Yeah, and I'm gonna just talk about, we'll talk about that right now. So I was gonna get to that, but yeah, well, why not go ahead and get to No, yeah, since you asked the question, we're going to talk to you about that. And so right now, Superintendent Spearman, if you saw the press conference, she shared that employees who are unable to work as a function of this coronavirus situation will still be compensated for the duration, okay? After we had a press conference on yesterday with superintendents, she said she spoke a little out of turn there, okay? So she didn't necessarily have the authority to make that kind of commitment, all right? Because that's a local decision. With that said, I think you all agree with me in that we want to continue to compensate our employees if at all possible, okay, for as long as possible. However, as I have told the leadership team, I can't tell you that we'll be able to commit all employees for as long as this crisis may continue, because I'm not sure how long it will continue. But for right now, I think we're all in agreement that for now, we want to maintain our commitment to employees, even if we've asked them not to report to work. Yes, sir.
One more question. With the governor and the president giving us a state of emergency, would there be any funds coming to us to help us compensate people while they're not working out of that extra money? You know, I think I saw somewhere they're giving the airlines $1 trillion. Wall Street $1.5 trillion. You think they'll give us some money?
Mr. Stevens, that's a very good question. I don't think so. I'll tell you the state, I think, just passed a $45 million, I don't know how you, but that's to go to DHEC, I think. So they passed some proposal to fund DHEC in terms of helping to support research and testing and some other things. I've not heard anything about passing any kind of stimulus package, if you will, to support K-12 education. But that is possible, although I've not heard anything about it yet.
See, that's where I thought when Ms. Spearman said that, you know, they were going to pay, that was, the state was going to pay them.
No.
Yeah, that's what you're saying, she backed up on that.
Yeah, yes.
I hadn't heard the backup, I just.
Well, she backed up on it today. We had a press
I
conference
didn't
today.
catch.
And she said, just to be clear, that is a local decision because the state does not fund those salaries, yes.
I think we got Mr. Davis next.
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Mhm.
another one of the questions concerns that some of my constituents that people in the community asked, how are we going to handle the graduation? For us if they, pretty much lock us down or
Yeah.
number of people.
Yeah, Mr. D, that's a very good question. And so many superintendents have posed that question to Superintendent Spearman. Right now, she has made a commitment to relax whatever regulations may exist that may negatively impact students' ability to graduate. Obviously, we have some contact hour requirements. All students are required to meet 120 hours. We have some attendance requirements. We have some credit requirements. And so there are lots of things that are in place that would really determine whether a student is a certified graduate or not. I think they're probably going to make some adjustments to that by the time this is all said and done. What those adjustments are, no one has been able to really say as of yet, okay? Because we aren't sure exactly how long this is going to extend. And so, Mr. Davis, I would say is, if we're back in school come April the 4th, April the 5th, then things will probably go along as usual. If this extends, as Mr. Siebel said, throughout, May or June, then that's another story. All right, so I'll tell you, I think Superintendent Spearman, in addition to members of the General Assembly that I've spoken to, are committed to making whatever kind of adjustments that are necessary to kind of accommodate these students who should be graduating this year. Okay.
But I did hear Molly Spearman speak on the AP exam that she will ask for a waiver for those students that are taking the AP exam. So I'm sure she's gonna ask for a lot of waivers because nobody knows how long this thing is going on. But those were some of the concerns with those students that were taking the AP exam. So, that was, something to put their mind at ease because we can't control this.
Yes.
And so those tests are administered by the state, so they can make those decisions to waive that.
Yeah, so Ms. Harrison is right. Superintendent Spearman has said she is going to request of the federal government that they waive all mandatory assessments for this year. And you know, we're optimistic that that waiver request will be honored. And I think that'll really relieve a lot of pressure off students, faculty, and staff, knowing that there is we don't have to worry about this dreaded state mandated testing that may be hanging over our head, and the fact that we have lost instructional days and this impact on kids' ability to be successful. So we appreciate the Spearman for indicating that she is asking for that waiver.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
Dr. Green, I need to talk about, I guess, paying out employees. And I heard, I think Molly just spoke it again, when we were talking about, it's to the board and the superintendent's discretion. If you need them to work, and they refuse to work, then where we are with that job?
Yeah, Mr. Miller, that's a very good question. I think some people were a little confused when State Superintendent Spearman and Governor McMaster said that schools would be closed and interpreted that to mean that faculty and staff didn't need to report to work. Okay? Schools being closed meant that students did not have to report. But the actual order says that it is a local decision to determine who are the essential employees that districts need to continue to report. Now, obviously, we're going to continue to serve meals. Somebody has to be there. Okay, so that's cafeteria staff. Obviously, we're going to use transportation and buses to transport meals. Somebody has to drive the buses. Obviously, buildings are open. If the air conditioning goes out, somebody has to fix it. I mean, so there are still some essential employees that have to report. I'll tell you, we have a list of people, and I'll just share with you kind of who we have determined to be kind of the essential employees that will continue to work after today. For the most part, most staff won't be here after today, but I'll share with you who will be here after today. Food service employees, bus drivers, maintenance, custodians. We will have some administrative presence, rather than as principals and or assistant principals. We will have some clerical staff coverage for every day, understanding that people may still be calling the schools or stopping by the school. District office staff will be present in addition to some security monitors at our respective schools. Other than that, teachers, teacher assistants, and others won't be required to report every day. With that said, as Mr. Miller indicated earlier, everyone is kind of in an on-call mode, for lack of a better word, where if we need you to report, then you would be required to report. Now, Mr. Miller asked, what if someone says, I'm not going to report? Well, this commitment that we have that we want to continue to compensate everyone obviously wouldn't apply to you, okay? If we need you to report and you determine that you don't want to report, at a minimum, you won't be compensated, all right? We will continue to ask teachers to support students, even though they are showing up to school every day, that they still have office hours, they still have to provide instructional support, so they're still working remotely. I understand fully there are some people who aren't necessarily working remotely, and we understand that just as a reality of where we are right now with this coronavirus, but just to maintain everyone's economic stability, we don't want to cut them off where they aren't receiving compensation. So we want to continue to compensate them, but understanding that if the district needs them to report, they have to report. Now, I was at Fairfield Elementary School today, at the end of today, and I had an opportunity to address the faculty and staff there, and I shared that with them. I said, now, I just want to reiterate, most of you won't have to report after today, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to return. If the district needs your services, then we need you to return back to work, and I didn't get anyone who argued about that. They understood. But I think after the governor and state superintendent's press conference, some people were a little confused about what that meant. But a very good question, Ms. Miller. Okay. Any other questions about that? So let me move on to my next item, lunch and breakfast. So Monday and Tuesday, which was last minute, I want to give food service and everyone a shout out for really making that happen. We developed what we kind of call grab and go sites. So you could go to any school in the district and pick up a breakfast or pick up a lunch. I think the first day we did it, we probably served close to 400 meals, total breakfast and lunch, which is obviously considerably down. We recognize that a lot of our students have challenges in terms of even getting to school sites. And so even though we're serving breakfast and lunch at McCoy Liston, if you live in Dawkins, you still have a hard time getting from Dawkins to McCoy Liston. Even though you might live in Greenbrier, you still got a hard time getting to Kelly Miller. All right, or you might live in Zion Hill, but it's hard for you to get to Fairfield Elementary. So what we're going to do starting Thursday is we're going to put breakfast and lunch on buses. We're going to run the bus routes, and we are going to drop off meals during the bus routes starting Thursday. Now we'll continue with the grab and go sites, but in addition to that, we'll deliver meals by bus starting Thursday. The reason we are starting tomorrow is bus drivers are going to drive the routes to drop off those remaining learning packets that weren't picked up today. And since they'll be kind of consumed getting those learning packets out tomorrow, then we decided we would start with the buses dropping off breakfast and lunch on Thursday. The plan is for the drivers to drop off the current day's lunch and the next day's breakfast. Okay? So we can drop off 2 meals in one day. So on Thursday, they'll drop off Thursday's lunch and Friday's breakfast. Okay? So we won't necessarily need to make 2 trips. Yes, ma'am?
Okay, if, let's say you've got students that live in Ridgeway, but they go to the magnet school, another school in Winsboro, but they're closer to Giga. Can they pick up that there because that'd be more convenient for them?
Yes, so that's a very good question, Ms. Hartman. You can pick up a breakfast or lunch at any school.
Okay.
Yes. So what we did is just to designate every school as a kind of grab and go site. What I'll tell you is after Friday, we're probably going to consolidate some of the sites in Winsboro. So what we'll probably have is, we'll probably have 2 sites in Winsboro. After talking to the food service director, it'll probably be Fairfield Magnet School and Fairfield Middle School. We'll continue with those sites in the outlying areas, but in Winsboro, the 2 grab and go sites will be Fairfield Magnet School and Fairfield Middle School. But to reiterate, Ms. Hartman, you can pick up a meal at any school. So you don't have to go to Fairfield Magnet School, or you don't have to go to Giga, or you don't have to go to McCoy Liston. You can go to any site and pick up a meal.
Right now, but you're saying it probably change Friday.
No, so the only thing that'll change Friday is, instead of having a grab and go site at every school, so right now we have a grab and go site at McCoy Liston, I'm talking about Winsboro. We have a site at Fairfield Elementary School, Fairfield Magnet School, Fairfield Middle School, and Fairfield Central High School. As of Monday, we'll consolidate some of those Winsboro sites. And so now we only have 2, Fairfield Magnet School and Fairfield Middle School. We'll still have Giga, we'll still have McCoy Liston, we'll still have Kelly Miller.
Okay.
We'll just consolidate the sites in Winsboro,
In this area.
in the town, yes.
That sounds logical.
Okay. All righty. And so let me talk a little bit more about essential staff and what that process was. I mean, obviously that is a relatively subjective term when the state superintendent or the governor says that essential staff will be required to report. And so I sat down with the leadership team to really talk about who we needed to continue to have here to maintain the operation of running schools. And so if you wonder how did I come up with the departments and people that I came up with, we really sat down and talked about, I mean, at a minimum, who do we need to maintain the operation? And so when you talk to other districts, that could vary. And so there are some districts who may say, I was speaking to one of the staff members here who said, there are some librarians who are going in 3 or 4 days a week in other districts. There may be some counselors who are going in 3 or 4 days. There may be some other, mental health workers. I mean, It just varies from district to district. So I just want you to be aware of that. If you say, wow, I was talking to one of my colleagues from Anderson Forward, they said that they had these people who were part of the central staff. It's not defined. It's for every district to really make that determination themselves. Okay. You know, as I close, I want to just share something on social media that a parent wrote about her experience over the last day that I thought was very refreshing. And she's a Fairfield Elementary parent, so shout out to Fairfield Elementary School. But she said, great job to all those making things happen at Fairfield Elementary School. Smiles and warm greetings as I picked up the boys' learning packets for the next 2 weeks. Lunch bags ready to be handed out. My boys had a picnic together in the living room. During uncertain and scary times, it is heartwarming to see level-headed, sincere, and happy help being extended to our children. Some that are too young to really grasp what is happening. And it being done with smiles and uplifting words. And a shout out for the package. Well put together, awesome logs to keep track of work, lists of additional resources and communication venues to aid in learning the anxiety that some of us, we don't homeschool for a reason. Mamas like myself have. Thanks for all you do. We love being a part of the Stellar Stingray family. And so someone shared that with me, and I was just elated to read that, to see how we are impacting the people that we serve. So I want to just end with that note. Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, sir. And thanks to the staff and everybody for the tremendous work, because you're exactly right. It was late on Sunday when y'all had to put this all together. And congratulations to you too for getting it together as well. Curriculum instruction.
All right, good evening, everyone. For your final reading is the 2020-2021 proposed academic calendar, and there are no changes from the February board meeting.
Chair will entertain a motion in regard to the final reading of the 2020-2021 proposed academic calendar. We gotta change these years. This is too complicated to say. Feels like the 19 or something.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we approve the final reading of the 2020-2021 school calendar school year.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. It's been motioned by Ms. Harris. It's been seconded by Mr. Miller to approve final reading of the 2020-2021 proposed academic calendar. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. I believe that's 6-0. Thank you.
Second item for your approval is the 2020-21 instructional materials textbooks for district selection and recommendations. And these selections were reviewed by our teachers along with our instructional staff. And for your approval, you have recommendations related to mathematics, K through 8, social studies, grades 3, 4, 5, and 7, and automobile collision repair technology. And these titles or textbooks are with approval with anticipated funding by the state. In addition, you will find a list of instructional materials textbooks for architectural design 1 and 2, introduction intermediate manufacturing technology, mechanical design 1 and 2, mechatronic courses, and welding technology 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, Chair will entertain a motion in regard to the textbooks for the upcoming school year.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we approve the instruction material textbooks district selection recommendation for adoption for the 2020-2021 school year.
Thank you, ma'am.
I second.
Thank you. It's been motioned by Ms. Harrison. It's been seconded by Mr. Davis to approve the instructional materials for the 2020-2021 school year. Any discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving indicate by raising your right hand.
Sorry.
It's okay. 6-0. Operations Finance.
Good evening. The first item under operations and finance is a facility usage request for Salkehatchie. The superintendent recommends the board approve the facility usage request with waiver of fees for Salkehatchie to use McCoy Liston School of Technology on June 20th through 27th, 2020.
Thank you. Chair, entertain a motion on this.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, I will accept the superintendent recommendations. The board approve the facility use request with the waiver of the fees for the Salkehatchie to be used at McCurliston School of Technology on June 20th through the 27th, 2020. Do I need a second?
A second.
Thank you. It's been motioned by Mr. Miller. It's been seconded by Ms. Harrison to approve the facility usage request for McCoy Liston for Salkehatchie for June 2020 with fee waiver. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval indicate by raising your right hand. 6-0. Thank you.
The second item in the board packet under operations and finance is the February 2020 finance report, and that report is attached for board review. This month, I do want to note that I'm projecting that our year-to-date property tax revenue will have a revenue shortfall of $2.7 million compared to what we've budgeted. In the memo, I do have a chart of the categories of properties that are going to result in that shortfall. And just to summarize it, basically there are 4 categories of properties that are going to result in a shortfall. Typically, the majority of the major property taxes in most of these categories actually are all associated with the DC Summer project. Typically, they're all paid by the end of January. And so after analyzing the January and February statements that we've received, concluded that we were behind where we should be in revenue, and looked at a couple of reports that received from the county and determined that we had 4 categories where we have shortfalls. The largest category, if you're looking at the memo at the bottom, is the actual property that's directly related to BC Summer. That's going to result in a reduction compared to our budget of about $1.1 million. There's also the category above that, which says state business personal property, refers to property that one of the contractors on that site had, and they were paying property taxes on that. Now, when the other 2 reactors, when that project failed, eventually the company, which was an out-of-state company, of course, took all of that property away. So all of that property that we had budgeted now, there are no taxes that will be paid on that. So that reduction alone is about $900,000. And then the next category is land non-qualified. I received an email that said that that's related to some land that was owned by Scanner that was basically reclassified as nonprofit, and as a result, there are no longer taxes that will be paid on that, and that's about $500,000 in reduction in revenue. So I've actually been in contact with the county. We've looked at a couple.
Kevin can correct me if I'm wrong. Model represented about 63% of all the operational revenue we received in Fairfield County Schools. 63%, one entity. And that's good during good times, but the problem with that is if there's ever a serious change to the value of the operation of that one entity, it can have some tremendous effects on our operation. And so we're talking about having basically $2.7 million less than we had last year in revenue as a function of just one entity. All this is a function of the DC Summer nuclear facility. And Kevin laid out exactly what the changes were in terms of reduction in value, in terms of an industry that was located on the actual site that is no longer in operation and therefore not paying taxes. in addition to some land. So how do we respond to that? Either one or two things has to happen. Either we get additional revenue from someplace else, or we have to reduce expenditures. And when you think about a school district, probably 88%, Mr. Finance Man, am I right? 88% of your expenditures are tied up in personnel, somewhere in that ballpark, all right? We're not panicking yet, but I just want everyone to be prepared that ultimately we're going to have to make some decisions about how we reduce the expenditures, all right? This year we are, because it happened so late, as Mr. Robinson said, unless something miraculously happens by the end of the year, we're gonna have to go into the fund balance to meet our financial obligations, okay? As we build the budget for next year, we probably will forego filling some positions because, as Mr. Robinson said, we very well may be in this situation on next year. This could be our new normal, all right? Maybe the values go up, maybe we get some additional revenue, but we can't necessarily plan on that. And so we'll probably forego filling some positions in the budget as we try and start reducing some of our expenditures. Still yet understanding that we'll probably have to go to the fund balance to balance the budget even next year. But ultimately, by the time we get to the budget cycle, after this budget cycle, I want us to be able to have a balanced budget without depending on fund balance. And unless something changes as it relates to our revenue, we might have to have some serious things change as it relates to our expenditures. And that's primarily going to be personnel. Now, me and Mr. Robinson asked some questions about, well, does this impact our commitment to giving bonuses every year? I say no, okay? I think we still maintain that commitment and we figure out what we do in terms of trimming some expenditures to make that happen. So, you all can tell me you don't agree with me and want me to go a different direction, but right now, my position is that we still maintain our commitment for bonuses over the long term. I'm not gonna tell you that folks won't be a little uncomfortable here. Obviously, we don't wanna tell anyone you don't have a job, and we aren't at that point. And let me just give Mr. Robinson a shout out because he keeps such a close eye on the revenue that we're receiving. I mean, he said, Superintendent, something just doesn't look right here. And I called the county to tell the county, my guy says that the revenues are down, do you know anything about that? And their response was, let me look into that, okay? You may be on to something, but I hadn't seen that. But Mr. Robinson is constantly watching the number. That's why he takes good care of this district as it relates to finances. So, let me thank him for being on top of that, giving us an opportunity to go ahead and put some provisions in place so we can accommodate this potential shortfall. As I told Mr. Robinson during the meeting, I doubt that he's wrong. I hope he's wrong. I've never ruled against him so much before. I know I'm gonna be wrong. I know he's gonna be right. But I'm hoping he's wrong, but I know he's gonna be right. And so we gotta start figuring out what adjustments we made as a function of that. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Arnold.
In the past, since I've been on the board, we've saved close to this amount of money. Where is that standing to be able to take care of this?
Say again?
In the past, we've saved about this amount of money.
So you mean we've had surpluses
Right.
every year? Well, so Ms. Hartman, ideally, I would love, of course, Mr. Robinson is gonna tell you that's gonna happen. I would love for, by the time we get to the end of the year, that at worst case scenario is a break even. We don't necessarily have a surplus or a deficit. That would be ideal. Based on Mr. Robinson's projections, he doesn't anticipate that will happen. He projects that because of the shortfall in revenue, we're probably going to have a deficit. However, I'm prayerful that that's not the case.
Well, hopefully, like you said, as far as employees, like you said, as far as that might be where you cut back. But you don't need to cut back if all possible in areas that we need it. I mean, because, these kids need it.
And so I want to be clear, I'm just briefing you on where we are. We aren't at the point of making any cuts. But I just want you to understand, this is what the projections are right now. So if I come to you and say, well, these are some things that we need to do to accommodate these shortfalls, it won't be the first time you've heard it, okay? So I don't want you to think, well, superintendent said we gotta start cutting positions, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying based on our projections right now, it looks like we're gonna have a shortfall, and if this is our new normal, if this is truly our new normal, then we're gonna have to make some adjustments. You know, obviously there were lots of people who probably, you wondered, well, what's gonna be the result of Dominion coming in, you know, Scanner going out? I mean, is that gonna affect the revenues? I mean, what's gonna happen? And I don't know if this is a function of that or not, but this is the reality at this point.
Well, you know, again, naturally, I'm sure you're looking at, if there's positions that maybe we can combine into one position instead of two. But as far as instructional to the children, that's probably, to me, the highest that needs to be there to, you know, for our children.
And once again, I wanna be clear, Ms. Hallman, I'm not making a recommendation to cut any positions. Okay, I'm just telling you right now, we are projecting a budget shortfall. And if this is our new normal, we're gonna have to figure out a way to reduce expenditures. I'm also telling you, 80% of our expenditures are tied up in personnel. So I'm not telling you what those expenditures, how we cut them, or what we need to do other than to bring this to your attention at this point in time. Ultimately, me and Mr. Robinson will come to you with some recommendation as it relates to what we need to do, but we aren't at that point yet.
We're gonna be talking about the budget cycle coming up next. So we need to know where we're going to stand going forward. But as of this year, even if we do have this deficit, we're going to be able to cover it and still be in a good financial situation. It's just, we're gonna have to start looking in the future. Because, I mean, if you've got property that's, I mean, $1 million worth of property that is now, not going to be taxed, that's $1 million we're not gonna have. Whatever's going on with VC Summer, if that's the depreciation, as in any business that's gonna get depreciation, that's what we're gonna have to live with going forward. So I appreciate you bringing that to our attention, and so we can start planning for the future. But I just wanna make sure everybody understands, we're still in pretty good shape. We just gotta figure out what to do going forward.
But Mr. Sprigg, I appreciate you, you know, referencing that point. Very often people wonder, why is it so important to have a healthy fund balance? This is why it's so important. Because when things happen that you do not expect, if you don't have a reserve, then you're much more worried than we would be right now. As Mr. Sprigg said, because we have been contributing to the fund balance, we have been preparing ourselves for this rainy day that may happen. And so now we have a healthy fund balance that we can pull upon, that really puts us in still stable position. Thank you, Mr. Sprigg.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right.
We all know that Mr. Robert is a very conservative guy.
Absolutely.
I hope he's real conservative on this one.
Very conservative guy.